I'll wait till it shows up here on my iPad over here. We'll get going.
Now streaming live.
Come on.
True. Mama's home.
There it is.
Oh, I got
40. We got 40 watching already. Okay, everybody. Hey, Sean Dotson here with the Flip Side After Hours Party Show. And, of course, I'm here with my good friends DeCall Thomas, David Kramer, and, of course, our special guest who really doesn't need any introduction, but Dale, Dow, D, whatever you want to call him, Neitzel. And I don't think he needs much of an introduction, but Dale, say hi to everybody, of course.
Hi, everybody. It's Dale Neitzel.
It's Dale. Damn it. It's Dale. Quit calling me Dow. Everybody knows officially it is Dale.
Forrest started that. You know, I kept telling him, I repeated him like the first 400 times. You know, I'd say, no, it's not Dale, it's Dale. But it didn't do any good. He just kept doing that.
Right. As many times as he told us the first clue is where warm waters halt, as many times as you've had to correct him that it's Dale, not Dow. Right.
That's right. Forrest ain't beyond fucking with somebody, that's for sure.
So anyway, everybody, I'm down at the Three Rivers Brewery here in Farmington, New Mexico, and tonight I'm drinking a Double Blazes Pale Ale from Three Rivers Brewery. It's definitely a new brew here, so just want to thank them for that new brew that we've got here. And David and DeCall and Dale, what are you guys drinking tonight?
I got a big ass Heine here and 3 more in reserve because they cut me off with the whiskey. I got a big ass
Heine
and references.
Yeah, I've got apple juice in a Thrill of the Chase cup.
Check that out.
Is that what you guys call alcoholic cider out there in Little Loomy Island you got out there? Or?
No, I just swore off alcohol a few years ago. And so actually, I guess it was more than a few years ago. It was when I was in college. So,
wow. So you swore off alcohol when you tried figuring out this poem? No wonder what I've been doing wrong this whole time.
That's a good point. Maybe I should go back to alcohol.
When you're out drinking with Abe Lincoln and you start rolling over outhouses, you know, something's got to give.
I wasn't the one doing that.
It was honest Abe.
Well, anyways, I want to give an opportunity for everybody to kind of get to know Dale a little bit. If you don't know Dale is the initiator of what I like to call the gateway forum of the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, which is the downeitzel.com, which is his forum. And I like to call it the gateway because theoretically, it's really the second forum that came out here in the Thrill of the Chase. Of course, the first being the old Santa Fe Trading Co., which was the first. And then I like to call it the first. And then Dale Neitzel's site, which I think we're all pretty much familiar with, is what I like to call the gateway forum that everybody really initially gets involved in this chase. So I really want to give Dale a chance to say hi to everybody here in the chat room and here in the FenTube universe. And just tell us a little bit about himself, what he does outside of the chase, and how you got started. I think a lot of people may know, but some of these new searchers that are new to the community may not know how you got started, Dale. So if you'd kind of like to give us a little synopsis about yourself, if you could.
Well, I was a documentary filmmaker, and that ended up, pushed me into hanging out with a bunch of treasure hunters. They were undersea treasure hunters, marine divers, folks who were looking for sunken ships and old safes in casino ships, things like that. And I got involved with them because I was doing stories for them on CNN Science, because they were using a new technology, a different kind of diving technology at that time. It's called saturation diving, which let divers stay underwater for days and days and days at a time at pretty severe depths. Anyway, I met these guys and I started doing stories with them, and pretty soon they invited me to hang out with them and go with them on treasure hunts. So I did. And we ended up in Uruguay looking for sunken ships for about 5 years. Wow. And the operations manager for this was a fellow by the name of Forrest Fenn, and he turns out to be Forrest's nephew. So I had heard about Forrest from Creighton. when you're in Uruguay and you don't speak Spanish, the 4 or 5 of us on the team, we'd sit around in the evening and we'd tell stories. And Creighton would tell stories about his uncle Forrest. It was a lot of fun, and I got to hear about him. When I got home from that trip, I started watching Forrest's website, and I was really interested in the things he was selling. I mean, there was no way I could afford any of them, but they were beautiful things, and they were just beautiful to look at, and I wanted to look at them. So I started watching his website, and then one day, in 2010, there it was. He announced the treasure hunt, and that's how I got started.
Wow, that's great. So what do you, and you said you still now, you still do documentaries and things now, or what do you do outside of the chase?
I run a small TV station in Bellingham. It's a community TV station, small crew. We have a bunch of people there. I still produce things. I still empty waste baskets. I do everything there, just like everybody else who works there.
Does your wife have a bell that she rings that make you take out the trash too, or what?
No, she just takes it out of the waste basket and puts it in front of me if I'm watching TV, and I get the clue.
You get the hint, right? She doesn't have a big bell she rings like Forrest.
Yeah.
Your hearing's a little better than Forrest, right?
I don't know. I probably not. That's why I wear these.
So one thing we like to ask people as searchers, we know that you are married. You have mentioned that, but how does your wife think about the chase, and how is she involved in it? And tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind, or is that too personal? Sorry.
Well, I don't know. It might be. If you see me suddenly disappear off to the side, you'll know that I got too personal.
He got the hook.
But basically, she could care less about me going out and searching. She would love for me to find the treasure, so she encourages me to go out and look, and she likes to come along, but not so that she can help me search. I don't think she knows one line of the poem. Mostly it's so that we can stop at every friggin' garage sale between here and West Yellowstone. I mean, that's her treasure hunting. She loves garage sales and yard sales, and
that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she finds all kinds of treasures, and I come back empty-handed.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to go over to the chat room really quick. We always like to say hi to a lot of the people there in the chat room, and I put out the kind of the teaser or the countdown video a few hours ago. So there was already people that were already in here and have been here for a while. So I have to tell that Totally Not Mitzi was the front running bitch in the show. She got in here first, so we have to give her props. She got in here like, well, if you're the guy, you're the bastard. If you're the girl, you're the bitch. Well, that's how it goes. And she got in here first. I think she got in like 2 minutes after I put it live, so she's been waiting for the show to come out. But there's quite a few people in here, so I just want to say hi to a lot of people. And like I said, it's been in here for a while, so I'm just. Hey,
Sean, pay attention, because there's a bunch of people in here that are saying hi to Dale too. So make sure.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is great.
Well, let me go back. I mean, like I said, I've got like 2 hours of chat in here already of people just meeting in. We've got. Go ahead, Dale.
You guys can see that. Can I see it? I don't see it.
If you're. Yeah, if you're just watching the Zoom, Dale, you're not going to be able to a chance to see it. Like I know DeCall, he runs a dual screen on his. David will split screen his, and I run my iPad over here to the left so I can see it.
I get it.
Yeah,
okay.
So
well, there's no chance I'm going to do that. I'm on an island. For God's sake, I'm lucky I have any broadband whatsoever.
Are you on a dish? Are you on a satellite dish?
No, there's actual broadband, but it goes
standing on the ground, David. What are you talking
but it goes across to the mainland via radio wave, so it's limited. If anybody on the island starts watching Showtime, I'll go away.
Does that mean you'll go watch it with them, or
could be that? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to hit up a few of these people. I know there's a lot of people in here. Sasa Johnson's in, Jimmy Fast, Journeyman, Follow Me Down, Jim White, K-Pro. Hey, Chris.
Hey, K-Pro.
Chris Jones, Rob G, Illinois Ghost.
Hey, Illinois.
Buddy Allen. What's up, buddy? Dale Richards, William Ortiz, Teton Trapper, which I think is Joel Lewicki now with his beard. I know he's not really, but I'm laughing. H. Purd, ES, Betsy Ross. That's a new name I haven't seen. Hello, Betsy. Matt. Hi, Matt. The Journeyer. How you doing? Sean Martinez, Davio22, my buddy from California. Good to see you on there. Unknown Searcher. Ooh, it's Unknown Searcher.
got a paper bag over his head, probably.
Yeah, right.
Exactly right.
What was that? The Unknown Comic, or what was that
Yeah,
guy?
The Gong Show.
The Gong
from
Show.
the Gong Show. Right. Jason Hilgerson, how are you? Journey Man.
I'll be right back.
Yep. Totally Not Mitzi, of course. Rob G. DeCall, of course, he's in there. Chris Jones. I know we got a lot. Julie Smith, that's a new name. How are you? Keep going through here.
Don't forget K-Pro. Don't forget Iron Will. Don't forget.
Oh, I didn't see Iron Will. Hey, Iron.
Julie
Joel
Smith,
Lewicki.
Gato Khan.
In here. William Ortiz. I don't know if I mentioned you already. And as I see more names, Fox Gaming. Gay Delkin. What's up, Eugene? Good to see you in there.
Oh, we get an advertisement for his juice.
Do we? All right.
Yeah,
Alan K, H. Purd.
Right. So we've got a lot of people. We got 86 people already in the chat room. That's great. Good to see you all in there. Yeah, Joel Lewicki, you're right. Dow's a huge draw. I think that's great that, I was very happy that Dale came in here and wanted to spend some time with us. That's great.
Hey, you guys are a lot of fun. Had I known that, I would have stopped doing the blog years ago.
This is really a new format. I mean, we kind of enjoyed it. How else are you going to see people's real personality? It adds credibility. It adds, maybe not to me directly, but I think it's a lot of fun. People get
absolutely
the personality.
Yeah. And not everybody can show up at Fenbury and shake hands and meet people. So this is great.
Well, what I think is nice about it is when you're talking in the forums, a lot of times you don't get to really know people and you don't really get to see people. And you don't really get that immediate chat with people. But in this, especially in the chat room, and what we'll find, and we've seen obviously, is the chat room will completely ignore us. They'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. We'll completely ignore them and talk about whatever we want to talk about. But the nice thing is you do get that feedback. You get that immediate feedback with talking with people. You look in the chat room, you try and find the questions. It's really hard, guys. And I know sometimes I'll be in a Gypsy's Kiss and I'll watch the chat room and I'll completely miss what they're talking about in the video because I'm so focused on what's going on there. So it's really hard for any of us here in the panel to even watch the chat room and try and keep up with you guys. So hopefully if you do have a question, you'll pose it, either to the flip side or you'll pose it to David or DeCall. Dal doesn't have a way to view it. So if you have a question, you really want to pose it to Dale or Dal, or it's Dale, folks, then, post it to us and then say, this is the question to Dale or whatever. And then we can hopefully see it and then ask Dale that question. So, and if we can't get to it, maybe there's a way, Dale, that you might be able to respond to some of those people when you go back and you watch the video, the replay, because the chat will be in there. You can go back and watch it and then find a way that suits you. If you want to, in the comments section of the video, you can go back in there if you have your Gmail account and then respond directly to those people if you like, or find a way that you feel comfortable in doing that on your own forum if you'd like. So
all right,
it's completely up to you.
You're absolutely right about the blog. I always assumed everybody looked like what their gravatar looked like, and so for DeCall, yeah, absolutely. I'm very surprised you look like a human being.
I was going to say his is spot ass on, man.
Hey Dale, man, I can't wait to ask you about where you're searching and what you're doing in the chase. I mean, I know you threatened to quit the chase at one time. I don't want nobody wants to hear that. We all encourage you to stay in, and you and I are sort of in a similar area, very within miles of each other, not a lot closer than most people. Where are you searching lately, or where do you want to search?
Well, I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking in the same area. I tell you, I kind of got hung up on. You remember? I mean, this has been around for a long time, but I sometimes I'm slow on the uptake, and I was all of a sudden I got interested in that concept of maybe the clues are a lot closer together, and so I went back to Ojo Caliente.
Yeah.
And I started looking at that channel that it carved on the way down to the fire hole. I don't know, about 50, 60 feet there. And I said, that son of a gun looks like a canyon. Why can't that be a canyon?
Yeah.
And so I started messing with that, and I started playing with that, and I lost interest in that after about 8 days. No, a couple hours I spent just staring at that thing, trying to figure out if that could possibly be what Forrest. And then I, shook myself awake and said, no, Forrest wouldn't do anything sneaky like that. He's not a sneaky person.
Are you sure?
No.
I spent 2 seasons, 2 whole summers looking underwater, and then at least Fenn told us it's not underwater. Thank goodness. I'd probably spend 3 or 4 seasons underwater.
Well, hey, real quick, I got a question for you. If you got a second, it comes from Sean Martinez in the chat room. He said, "Question for Dale: have you completely given up on New Mexico, and if so, why?"
Why? Well, everything is in flux with me. Yes, today I'm not interested in looking in New Mexico. But, a year from now, yeah, I might be back there. I'm never going to say never. But right now I'm not interested in it. Right now, I think the Montana-Wyoming area is the right area. That area around West Yellowstone, maybe in the park, maybe outside the park. And there's just so much to explore there. And I looked for 2 years in New Mexico, and I looked just about every place I could. And quite frankly, now I know there's a lot of people who live in New Mexico. Thank God Cynthia isn't on this show. Oh,
wait, Sean, I can invite her. Hold on.
And Sean, I'm sorry about this, but I looked in New Mexico, and honestly, I couldn't find one beautiful place. I mean, seriously, I just kept running into places that were trashed, and maybe I'm sure, maybe it was just, the luck of the draw, but I kept saying, I can't see why Forrest would hide anything here.
I understand.
So I left.
Yeah. Well, you've had kind of a transformation from New Mexico to Montana and Wyoming. And then, I mean, you've got a lot of.
Oh, look at him. He's drinking straight out of the jug now. Holy
there you go. Hell yeah.
That's some fresh cider, Shane, right there.
Real men don't need glasses.
I try to look up scale, but it doesn't work for very long.
Sorry, go ahead, DeCall.
I mean, mostly I'm just curious. Do you feel more of a connection to Wyoming side or Montana side? What are you thinking now?
Well, I've abandoned that concept of Nez Perce Creek and that thing I think I wrote about last. I still am interested in that area around Grayling Creek. I'm still interested in the area, but I look. Let's see, what would that be? East of Lake of Hebgen. I look between the park and Hebgen, and I'm still very interested in that area for a number of reasons. But I'm losing a lot of confidence in it, mostly because of the second clue, the canyon thing. I used to think I had a dead canyon in there, but the more I think about it, the less I like it as a canyon. And so now I find myself going back to Firehole and back through Firehole Canyon again. And I started that new page on the blog about In the Canyon Down. And I did that because all of a sudden that word "in" jumped out at me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have always considered, I've had no problem considering going right through the old canyon onto the next thing to look for the home of Brown. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it hit me that, well, if Forrest wanted me to go through the canyon, he could have used the word "through." It's one syllable. It would have fit fine in the poem. He didn't say "through." He said "in." Maybe I should stay in the canyon. And so if that's the case, I thought I would ask around and see what other people thought about it. And I got a lot of interesting.
Well, wouldn't in the canyon, I mean, you would think this is about water. Water is the lowest point in any canyon, and that's why I like the word "in." I like the word "in" for other reasons. I've got a vivid imagination, and I won't even go into it here.
But how does that? Okay, Dale, and we talked about this, in our, what I would call meet and greet or whatever before we did the show. But, you know, and I like the fact that you brought up the whole new thread on In the Canyon Down. I think it's great. But how does that relate to Forrest Fenn stating, you know, I'm not going to go, you know, down in a canyon, back out of the back up in the canyon and back down in the canyon if you really did 2 trips? How does that, you know, in the canyon really, how does that really relate, you know, when you're thinking about going in the canyon and not through the canyon?
Yeah, you know, a good point. I mean, some of the canyons, for instance, the one in the Madison Canyon right below Madison Junction. So if you're using if you were to use Madison Junction as where warm waters halt, the Madison Canyon starts right there, and it goes down. It's hard to say where it ends exactly, but it probably ends certainly by the time you're over in say you know,
West Yellowstone, or
well, certainly by then, but yeah, certainly by the time maybe you get to the Beaver Marsh or one of those fishing holes back in there. So, but that's a long stretch, and it's not a big deal to walk into that. I mean, I consider that thing to be a valley rather than a canyon, but on maps they call it a canyon. So the question is that the kind of thing Forrest would call a canyon? You know, probably not. The more I think about it, probably not. When he says canyon, he probably means a damn canyon, you know, with steep walls and something you got to get down into. But to your question, Sean, you know, I mean, it just really all depends on what Forrest means. And like everybody else here, I'm just as confused. I'll start off absolutely positive I know what Forrest meant, and then, you know, that doesn't work. And after about 6 years, you know, light bulb goes on. Maybe he didn't mean that, you know.
Dale, let me ask you something. So I like to ask people, what are sort of your core principles then? See, here's my core principles to give you an example. I believe that we take Fenn at his word. So my core principle is, of course, follow the poem more literally. So down is down is not south. Okay, but I also believe that we literally take Fenn's places, the ones talked about in the book, before we take any random place. So we'll definitely take Madison Junction for warm waters halt before we take any other warm waters halt, and test the idea first before I go to, say, New Mexico and test that warm waters halt, simply because it's on the cover. And I'll prefer an area close to Lewis and Clark's story before I would prefer a story that's, you know, in Gardner or something. Even though he any place he mentions, I'm kind of attracted to it rather than opposed to it. But what are your core principles in solving this thing?
Well, I think number one is I really sincerely believe in the West Yellowstone area. I mean, and you know, the northwest section of the park. And I do that because Forrest spent so much time there, and because Forrest has said, he said it on that newest video we just saw from 2006. He said, my heart is in Yellowstone. Yeah. He says that right in the very beginning. And he also mentioned that he visited Yellowstone 4 times a year when he went to Cootie 4 times a year. He went there to fish. So, I mean, come on. Obviously, he has the means. You know, people are always talking, an 80-year-old guy isn't going to get in his car and drive.
Oh, he has it.
Yes. I mean, the guy's perfectly capable of driving wherever the hell he wants to drive. He said he drove 891 miles in one day.
What was that one weekly word? If you don't think I could have put it there, you're probably right.
Okay. But I think he could have put it there. I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. And he believes it's where his heart is. So I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be there. I mean, if I was going to hide something and it was going to be in my special place, why wouldn't it be in a place that was near and dear to me?
Right. Now that you mentioned that really quick, and I want to talk about that video, Dale, that you brought up, because I know that's what Toby and them talked about, and I think it's something that's new out there that we definitely should talk about. But I want to go back to a featured question that came out on Mysterious Writings, which is Jenny Kyle's spot, that was dated April 24th of 2018. And I'm going to read this verbatim, and if I could, hold on really quick. I'm going to bring it up so everybody can see it.
God, I'm so jealous of you guys that can do more than one thing with your computer.
Can you guys see my screen now?
Nope.
I don't see your screen.
There it goes.
Oh, now it's hit. Yeah.
Okay.
There
This is the right here. This is the Thrill of the Chase special place. He says, "Dear Forrest, there was ever, you say there was only ever one place you wanted to hide your treasure chest because of how special that spot was to you. When a searcher arrives to this location, will they understand why it was so special to you? And did you include that reason in your autobiography in the chest? Jenny." And Forrest responds, "Jenny, maybe they will, but probably not. Their mind may be on other things. It was in my autobiography until I removed it for personal reasons." Let me see if I can get back over here and stop sharing my screen. I'll take a second.
I'm waiting for a porn site to come up.
Right. So anyways, he says that, the question was, when a searcher arrives at this location, will they understand why it was so special to you? And he says, maybe they will, but probably not. So my question is that, let me get back over to my main screen. If I can get out of here. Come on. If that treasure is found in the Yellowstone area or in Montana or Wyoming that he speaks so highly of in The Thrill of the Chase, that he was in love with it and he had so many childhood memories there. If it's found in that area, why would we ever question why that place was special? We would know because he talked so fondly of it.
I think he said, your mind will be busy with other things or something to that effect. And if I just found the chest, you bet my mind would be busy with other things.
I'd be busy trying to change my shorts.
Yeah,
is what
I wouldn't be saying to me, I wonder why Forrest thinks this is a special place. Man, I'd be busy thinking about a lot of other things besides that. And I think that's what he meant.
Yeah, like how the hell am I going to keep my wife from knowing I got this?
She's going to want to garage sale the heck out of this.
I think he's being realistic and he's being sly in the Forrest kind of way. He's dodging the question in the Forrest clever way.
Sure. Well, I look at it and I go, maybe they will, but probably not. Again, like he said, he took out the reason why that place was so special. Now we could be talking about, the entire region, or we could be talking about that exact spot. We may be wondering, okay, yeah, it's here in Montana and Wyoming. Of course, he has such an affinity for this place, but why this, we're looking around going, why this exact spot? We all can conjecture about that. That is the place he, him and Peggy had a special moment together, or the last place he went fishing with Marvin, or the last place he, went fishing with Skippy, or whatever it is, or someplace he took Eric and him, his best friend he took. We don't know why, and we may never know why, even if, one of us four finds a treasure and we're sitting there with Forrest and we ask him that question and he goes, it's too personal. I don't want to talk about it. We don't know. So I think a lot of people, they get this idea of what that special place is, and then they kind of circle the wagons around what that is, and they look for evidence that supports that. I mean, we all do it. It's almost impossible not to do it. It's very hard not to do it.
I mean, and that's why I mean, what other place did he say was important to him? Did he say anything in New Mexico, was special to him? Did he, what was the word? That his heart was in any place in New Mexico. Did he say that about Colorado? No, he said it about, Yellowstone National Park. So, I mean, I'm playing the odds here, Let
me interrupt you, Dale, though. I got to admit that Sasha and Toby have made very convincing arguments about the emotional value on New Mexico and the amount of content in the book about New Mexico. I was kind of semi-impressed with Toby's argument about the level of content related to New Mexico, or possibly non-West Yellowstone content. And Sasha's argument was pretty convincing that Fenn also, hung out with all these famous people, made his fortune in New Mexico. I'm sure you're very aware of all these sort of arguments, but
So let me ask you then, why didn't he say that New Mexico is where my heart is?
Yeah, well, trust me, I'm with you. I would love to. I mean, Shannon Oots made a very convincing argument this week in favor of Montana, Wyoming. I kind of group it together, or should we call it West Yellowstone area? My heart's there because I believe that's what Fenn is trying to tell us, but I'll get a very firm argument back from these other guys, Nobody.
Well, one thing I questioned, and I started saying over on Toby's show, is that the reason why he went to Mexico, and Joe Lewicki did a good job of really highlighting this. And if you didn't catch what he said in that video, go back and see what he said. But he made a very good argument about, he left, he had a hard tour in Vietnam. He lost 22 pounds. He lost some friends, everything else. And he just wanted to go someplace that the world would let him out. And, Santa Fe was that place. If he had such a fondness for Montana and Wyoming and the West Yellowstone area, why was that not the place that the world would just let him out? That he had such a fond experience of that place. Now, of course, he had to provide for his family. He had 2 daughters that obviously wanted to wear clothes that, were way out of his realm and things like that, that every man that has a teenage daughter understands. But why was Montana and Wyoming not that place that the world would let him out? Why Santa Fe?
I have an answer for that.
Yeah, go for it, Dale. Go.
Have you ever been in West Yellowstone in February?
Yeah, no.
I mean, the snow is like this, dude. I mean, why the hell would anybody want to build a home there? And
Sure.
unless they didn't wear shoes and they had planks on the bottom of their feet.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Look, my argument for Yellowstone was very similar to Dale's, in that the man clearly said that Yellowstone had his heart, and I brought that into a biblical realm. I think it's Matthew 22 where it says where your treasure is, so is your heart. And I just thought, wow, if that just doesn't tell you where that treasure is, So I spent my damn treasure looking in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I didn't find a treasure. And then, along comes.
I don't want to cut you off at all, Dale.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Dale. So there was kind of that transition moment that I'm curious about. That Too Far to Walk cover. You were preparing for that, and am I right that was part of your transitional thinking from New Mexico to Wyoming, Montana?
No, I had already moved to up to Montana, up to West Yellowstone. I'd probably been there a year at that point, I think, but I'd been there for some time anyway. No, that wasn't the transitional moment. I'm sure of that, but my memory is as old as I am.
I mean, I even on my website I quote your description of where warm waters halt. Madison Junction. I in fact I so much agree with it. I had to admit that you publishing that mirrored my feelings and conclusions exactly, or very close to exactly. And I love that description that you posted on, just one of your regular posts to Wolf or somebody. And I thought it was brilliant. And then I wasn't really annoyed, but I was like shocked really that you let the cat out of the bag, even though many people had also came to the same conclusion about Madison Junction. But I would.
Well, when I started the blog, I think I say something to this effect on the front page. I started it so that we could share. If I didn't believe in sharing, I'd be some kind of a jerk. So, and I'm some kind of a jerk anyway. But I really believe that we can try and make the blog a sharing place. And I realize a lot of people on there have no interest in sharing. But as long as I'm hosting it, I feel I ought to try and set some kind of
since then I've lightened up a lot. I of course I share now. I've published my whole. You're saying I don't lighten up?
Yeah, you're pretty hard on 23 Monarch on a view.
Oh man, you're killing 23.
I'll light up into some of these guys.
I know you do.
Hey Sean, we got a lot lot of questions in the chat.
I know we do.
Like 10 minutes and 25 seconds. Iron Will wanted to know, can we ask Dale how you say his name? Is it Dal or Dale? And I kind of got him squared on that, I think.
Yep. Yeah, we know it's Dale, folks. It's Dale, but he'll go by anything. So he doesn't mind, right?
As long as Iron Will is doing the cooking, man, he can call me anything he wants.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been to Fenbury knows what I'm talking about.
So Iron, you like to wear the apron, do you?
All right. Iron's got the apron. Sean's got the kilt, and he keeps winking at me. I don't know.
Well, I got a question here from Chris Jones. He said, with searchers being close in the past, does a panel feel it's because people underestimate the final clues and how it's hidden? It's an interesting question. What do you guys think? You think that we underestimate the final clues and how it's hidden? You think that's what's really holding us back?
I don't know if I underestimate. I think it's tough. I haven't figured it out in any way, shape, or form, so I don't think I estimate at all. I don't think I underestimate it. I think I'm ready for anything, but I don't know what that thing could be. There are some things that I steadfastly refuse to believe in. I refuse to believe that the illustrations have a whole lot to do with it. I refuse to believe that there are anagrams in the poem. I refuse to believe that the homophones have anything to do with it. I mean, so I won't go there, but well,
I do recall a video of you in Red Valley area in New Mexico, and you drove past a place that was the Brown's house.
Yeah, there you go.
Saying, Homer Brown. And I know you weren't being literal, but I just had to laugh about that.
Well, you're out there.
There was a hot tub in there. That's what you were saying.
You're out there with a reporter. You got to make things work for him. That was the only thing we saw. So
Hey, Dale, so, I mean, I know you say often that Fenn will not give you any special treatment or secrets, but you gotta wonder if you trip across any special things in the vault or at his house or in conversation, if you stumble across any inside scoop just by being there.
Yes, because I've been there a couple of times when he's been talking to reporters. And I've tried to share those things. And boy, do I ever regret doing that in one particular instance, because people still believe that I said something I never said, and they credit it to Fenn. And that has to do with the blaze is white.
Yep.
Oh, geez.
There you
God
go.
almighty. I wish I had never brought that up. And how that all, I was with a reporter from Australia, and we were over at Fenn's house where he was interviewing Forrest. And Forrest, and he had asked Forrest about the blaze, and I don't remember exactly what the question was, but Forrest repeated his question sort of. He said, "What is a blaze? A blaze could be a white spot on a horse. A blaze could be this. A blaze could be this. A blaze could be this. A blaze could be this." And each time he said the word white as an adjective. And so I got to thinking, I wonder if the blaze is white. So we go over to Fenbury at Desert File's place after that interview. And I'm sitting there in a chair next to Desert File, and I thought, well, I'll ask Desert File about this. I'm just talking. I say,
well, that's an interesting conversation right there between you two.
I say, Desert File. I say, David, what the hell? So this is what happened. What do you think? Could that blaze? Could it mean that the blaze is white? Well, I have no idea, but everybody behind me must have had their ears perked. And somebody says, as soon as I get back, Forrest said the blaze is white. He never said that. I was a question that I posed, and it still floats around that the blaze is white. People still think that Forrest said that, and I feel terrible about that because
Hey, Dale. So I mean, you've done projects with Fenn, though, like the floating hat, photoshopping. I mean. And
here we go, the floating hat and the 800
here we go.
Hey, I mean,
that's the only reason you guys got me here was to talk about the floating hat.
Here we go. Oh, shit. Give me another beer. I need it.
You're our guest, Dale.
Okay.
Now, it can't be an after party unless we're talking about 800-foot salamander.
Floating hat this time. Come on, it's floating.
All right. Now this is my recollection, and we've already talked about the fact that my memory is 70 years old. So okay, everything here is a recollection. So please keep that in mind. But the way that came about was Forrest, his hat. What's the name of Forrest's hat?
Mildew.
Forrest. had, I think in the scrapbook before that, he talks a little bit about mildew. He talks about where it came from, and the question mark about how the holes got blown out instead of in. And,
Yeah.
and then he asked me. He said, "Can you put this?" He sent me a picture of him that he took in the mirror, which is that picture. Yeah. And he said, "Can you put this hat on, floating above my head a few inches?" Sure, I can do that.
Fuck with the call.
I love it. Go on.
So I think I've already explained all this. I know everybody.
I know you have. I'm just, I'm just making a point that you have these inside moments with Fenn.
But what does that get me? What does that give me? That I know that Forrest wanted the hat floated above his head? I don't know why.
Yeah, we don't know why. That's the question. How did the conversation go to say, "Oh, I need a hat floating"? Well, okay, that's to me. I don't think he's making this stuff up.
Forrest is a person of very limited words. I mean, I don't mean
the onset of Alzheimer's is kicking, and that's what he got out of it. You want what? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Forrest, so, sure. And besides, it was fun to be in on the joke, okay? So, sure, I did that. Yeah, I put the hat in and I sent it to him, and he said, yeah, that's great. And I put a background. I stole something from the internet, some mountain background. I don't even know what the hell it was.
I put my whole solve on that.
I know. And I flipped it.
Back to the drawing board we go, David.
So that it wouldn't make any sense. I figured people would figure out what it was if I flipped it backwards, figuring nobody will figure that out.
Yeah, the little girl from India was like, "That's my homeland." Yeah, what do you mean the treasure's not there?
It took somebody.
Ding-a-dong winky.
It took somebody on the blog about 5 seconds.
Whose idea was the bear? And whose idea was that weird mossy rock? And what did Fenn call the mossy rock and all that?
He didn't call it anything. That was my idea. So part of the problem is I'm going to show you what that picture looked like that Forrest sent me.
Yes.
You just killed like 87 people.
So this is what that picture looked like. You see this? It's missing. So when I move the picture over, there's no shoulder here. I had to put something over it.
Because some people have their holes.
Is that what are you giving us a double blaze?
Oh, you gave us a Gorman
of you.
No, I'm asking about his finger. What's happening?
So that's what I put that. I found this monolith thing, and I put that over where his missing shoulder is.
Yeah.
And again, I sent it to Forrest and the whole thing, and he said, yeah, that's great. So we posted that, and then a little while later, Forrest said, "Hey, we need," because people were complaining about bears. I don't remember what the discussion was, but people were talking about
a good
bears.
Discussion.
So Forrest said, "Let's put a bear in there somewhere." Oh, okay. So I went out and I found this swimming bear in the internet. I put him in the lake, and that's how that whole thing came about. And
lost another 12 searchers on that one.
Yep, there it goes.
It came about.
Thanks, Forrest.
It came about piecemeal because we published that photograph. Yeah, we published that photograph without the bear first.
Yes.
And it was out there for a few days. And then Forrest asked for the bear to be put in there. And so I did. And then the bear appeared. And, so.
Well, see, Dale, I think it's interesting that Fenn asked for the floating hat. He asked for the bear, but he didn't ask for the rock. And he didn't ask for the background. So to me, that's critical information,
That's critical.
That's some shit right there.
But that information came out shortly after.
Right.
When we got tired of the joke,
if Forrest is watching this right now, he's swigging down more Worcestershire sauce and yelling at Peggy to bring him some pickle juice. Peggy, you can't believe what they're talking about right now.
Ain't nobody else getting a sip out of Jackie's bottle either. It's empty.
We're gonna get mouth herpes from that thing.
So okay. Here's what I might know about Forrest that other people don't know.
Yeah.
I may appreciate Forrest's sense of humor, and the fact that he likes to fool around, and the fact that he likes to put one over on folks once in a while. I have a knowledge of that. that maybe everybody else who's come in the past year doesn't have.
Sure.
But other than that, I mean, he wouldn't tell me anything. Goodness.
I'm just hoping you'd stumble across some inside scoop, but it's not easy. Forrest is behaving like a very honorable person. He's not sharing with anybody. He's had plenty of time to spill the beans if he wanted to.
Yeah, I really like Forrest. I really like his sense of humor. I enjoy his sense of comedy. The bathroom. Remember the wonderful images on his bathroom floor stuff.
That's what Bill Gorman has his entire song around.
I understand. But to me, because I understand that Forrest likes to kid around, I never took that stuff seriously. And maybe maybe more people didn't understand Forrest's sense of humor, or what the hell? Maybe I don't understand that Forrest was serious.
Well, it does make sense. He's trying to get people to use their imagination in the same way. Green marble could be forest trees.
800-foot salamander.
What is it with the 100-foot salamander? What is that?
800. Yeah, don't shorten me up now.
Come on.
Well, I mean, hey, Dale, I just turned from Beaver Creek up your creek, Beaver Creek, near Boat Mountain, and then I said I'm not going to turn left. I'm going to turn towards Lewis and Clark's story. So simple. And I see this giant salamander geoglyph. And it turns out it's made by loggers, but I thought it might be about, Native American Indians. I mean, the salamander has a floating hat. So, of course, I'm interested in that, but
salamanders with hats.
We're here to talk about
cats and dogs living together.
I'm sorry, but
Zoom at 11.
Forrest and I made that a couple of years ago when we were up there. No.
What did you make? Oh, yeah.
The salamander with the hat.
Hey, well, I don't think the Lewis and Clark story should be taken too lightly. That was one of his earliest stories. And you and I ought to be more interested than most people, and I wonder why you don't a lot of people have investigated that area. I know that area better than anyone. I've figured out the exact trail, the exact timeline, plus or minus one day, sure. But I know every inch of that story. I've got the GPS coordinates of every picture just about, not from the photos, but from figuring it out,
Well, I've been up there too. I took the BBC up there when the BBC did a story. And so that's in the media coverage page. Up Red Creek. I like that area. It was for the press. So, I pretended to find something that could have been a hidey place for the chest. I didn't think it was, and we were freezing our butts off in Red Creek.
I am so disappointed.
Well, I do think it's interesting that.
Yeah.
There he goes
for the press. Yeah.
Now we can make fun of him.
He's out. Now
for the count.
10,
the one that pulled the plug
8,
again.
7, 6,
5, 4, 3.
You're back. He's back. Hey, you have a connection worse than I do.
No, I have Gigablast. I have the best that you can get, and I have $10,000 computer, $200 microphone.
That just goes to show that those MIT guys got nothing up on us.
Take your shit down to Walmart, get one of their $4.99 specials, and run like a man.
If anybody on the island flushes their toilet, I lose broadband completely.
It's the NSA downloading all my files. That's what's hogging the bandwidth.
Right. They know you're onto the 800-foot salamander. They're
exactly.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Listen, guys, we're almost close to an hour. We've got 90 plus people in here. It's going great. I don't want to shut this down, so I'm gonna let it keep going. But I want to refocus back a little on something which is about that video that Davio22 had posted on YouTube, and just kind of get some of your guys' thoughts on it and what you pulled out of it and what you thought was important. So I'll go around the room here. We'll start with David. David, if you watched that video, is there anything that you pulled out of it, or what did you think?
Well, a lot of people were trying to read Fenn's reaction to some of the questions.
that we could not hear.
I'm telling you, I had mine cranked way up in the other room. But they were trying to read his expressions, and that is important, because Fenn has been interviewed a lot, but that's a really early interview, and so, some of the questions that he was probably asked during that interview, he hadn't been asked as many times as he has been, to date. So when a new question arose, sure, the man had to think about it. And Joel was talking about, one question where Fenn looked up and to the left, which is supposed to be, a tell, that you're fibbing, or you're really searching for an answer. And I don't know, I'm going to give Fenn a break and say, you know what? He was as clear and concise as a man could be when ambushed with questions that he wasn't prepared to answer.
But wasn't that question that you're referring to that Joel did talk about and did a good job of it, was about what does he have planned for the next few years? And I think that was, obviously just prior to what we believe is when he actually physically went and hid the treasure. So I think that was very telling. That was a good point by Joel to bring that up, and I'm going to give him a lot of props and a hat tip to that. But is that what you're referring to, David? Or
yeah, that's the one that I'm referring to. And the question was, are you sure that the chest hadn't been put out prior to that question being asked?
Yeah.
And that could have been the tell, that they were seeing, because he'd already done it. So he's trying to think, wow, the chest is already kind of out there. So,
possibly, yeah. We don't know for sure. No. It's all conjecture, and it really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things, really, whether he put it out in 2003, 2009, or whatever. It really doesn't matter. We know it's out there, but it's interesting to talk about nonetheless. DeCall, what did you get out of that video?
Oh, I think it's interesting. He's telling us sort of the same story, same wording. Yep. So all these people hinging on every little word for their solve, maybe they ought to rethink how serious, he's telling. Those are basically unbiased stories with no real connection to the treasure. I got other things out of it. Nothing major. I mean, I was waiting for that twinkle in his eye when they asked him, what are you going to do in the next few years? And I kind of saw they were even talking about it on A Gypsy's Kiss, that there was a little look on his face, kind of a brightness and a twinkle. Yeah, it probably was there, but there wasn't that smirk like I'm guilty of, wait till you see what I'm planning. I'm going to blow you guys away. So I wonder how much was planned in 2006. To what extent had he written the poem so far? Did he already have the place absolutely picked out, or was it just obvious in his mind the entire? We don't even know when he first saw the place. It was probably well before 2006, but we don't know when he first saw the place. And when he said he doesn't want to tell us when he found out, when he found the place, that probably means at least midlife, after he was an adult. He must have seen it after he was an adult, or 17, 18, 19, on up to 60 years old. We don't know when he first saw the spot.
Yeah. And Dale, what did you get out of that?
Oh, confirmation bias. I really believe I triggered in. I mean, right at the end where, he said, I come up to Cody 4 times a year, and I go over to Yellowstone whenever I come up here to go fishing. Okay. This guy has no problem. He said, I drove 891 miles yesterday to get up here in one day. So, the guy can drive wherever he wants, whenever he wants. That obnoxious stuff about, he couldn't have gone all the way up to Montana.
And Peggy knows where he's at every minute.
Right. Yeah. Where was Peggy? I was curious when he looked over and he was talking about somebody, and he asked over, what's the name of that committee? And I was listening really close to see if that was Peggy's voice. I couldn't tell. I just wondered.
He said a name at that moment, or a title, like.
Well, that was the woman who works there, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not. So that was like yes to me. That was one of those moments. Hey, can I say something? I exchanged an email with Forrest.
No, you can't. We're going to mute you. You can't say anything. Hold on.
Muted.
Come on, you're the star, Dale.
No, go ahead, Dale. Absolutely.
I just want to pass this on because I get lots of email about this, and people are always asking me about the cancer fund. Not that I have any control over it or anything like that, but it's Forrest's cancer fund, and we all know that a certain percentage of the books goes to the cancer fund. We all wonder how much money is in there and how it gets spent. And so Forrest sent me this email today. He said, wow. The cancer fund, which was built by sales of TTOC, is really making a difference in some lives. You may not want to say this, but I've recently lost 2 old friends to cancer and 2 more have it. Collected Works bookstore is selling an average of 33 books a day. Dorothy is now putting 15% of the gross in the fund. That was her idea. The book is in its 11th printing. TFTW just came out with its 7th printing. A printing is about 3,900 books. Wow. So, and he said Shiloh is talking about maybe taking TFTW to an ebook.
That would be awesome. Lots of people look for that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Dale, for sharing that. And thank you, Forrest, for giving us an update on that. That's awesome to hear. Thank you very much. And I just want to go back to that video. And there was a couple things that I kind of took out of it. I definitely liked the video. And for those that are very set on that being their search area, I'm sure that was a great, meteor hit for those people and really got their excitement level up. And I would definitely agree with them, that video is certainly, gives people that are looking in that area a lot of confidence, no doubt about it. But there was something that I really hit out of it, and it's really out in left field. But when he was starting to talk about, those that work for him at his gallery, when he's talking about those, 14 people that work for him at his gallery, starting to talk about things that irritated him, about things that they had done. And one of the things he had mentioned was people would leave, the caps off of the felt pens, and people would leave, paper clips in the files, and they would catch when you open the drawers. But it really stood out to me because Scrapbook 107, shows the fact that he talks about in that scrapbook of, the phone cord being all twisted up and how many people have walked past it and never changed anything on that, and it irritated him. And he was so frustrated with that, that cord being twisted up that he missed the fact that Peggy told him to put gas in the car, before he went, and he forgot that. And that's why he ran out of gas, and then the other thing in there, in the other picture we get in there beyond the fork drawer and everything else being disorganized and him reorganizing it, is that he's got this picture of an envelope with a felt pin on there with the cap off, right? And then, and it's like he's showing things that irritate him. You've got a damn envelope on there with everything's not left adjusted, which if you're a military guy, everything's dress. So it's got to irritate the heck out of a military guy. The pin cap's off. You've got a stamp that's askewed. You've got a $5 bill with the dog ear on it. It's like he's showing things that kind of irritate him, that these are. So when he said that in the video, it kind of like clicked in my mind, like, oh, that reminds me of Scrapbook 107. These are things that irritate the guy, a military man. Those kind of things irritate you, and it's like the phone cord. It's just, I don't know. And those are things that trip up in my mind, and
that's a great catch. That's a great catch. I really like that. I'm glad you saw that. I didn't see it, but I really like it. And again, it points to his sense of humor, even about himself,
Yeah. Well, about the man. Yeah.
Hey, Dale, Lori James has a question here. Let me see if I can get back up to it. Was that picture on the cover of Too Far to Walk really the Madison, or was that the
Gallatin?
Gallatin. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was the Madison. It was down, about halfway between Barnes Hole and Baker's Hole.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think that's amazing that he asked you to go down there and take that photograph.
Hey, I got a quick question for you, Dale. And this is something, it's an aberration that sticks out of me in the Thrill of the Chase book. And I'm gonna try and open up to this page. And again, I'm the poem purist, the evil poem purist. But guys, I do know the book probably just as well as anybody else. But here's this one page here. Everybody can see, right? Can you see it? Bam. Okay. Now, the one thing that irritates me about this page is you've got everybody in the family but Skippy. Where the hell is Skippy? Like, does he not like fishing? Was he always the alpha guy doing his own thing?
Doing his own thing.
Not in that photo. Has anybody ever thought of that? I'm sure plenty of people have thought about that. I'm asking the question. Wanted to get your opinion on it, Dale. What do you think about that?
Well, Forrest has said that Skippy didn't like to fish, and
I didn't know that. I've never heard that.
Yeah, he said Skippy didn't like to fish. Creighton said that too. Creighton used to fish with his grandfather and Forrest, but he didn't fish very much with his dad. So, so yeah, and like Creighton or like Forrest says, Skippy was probably out doing his thing, whatever that was.
Airplanes and landing them on the lake somewhere.
Yeah.
There you go. Hell yeah.
To the front of his car. Who knows?
That's it. It's just interesting to know. I always wondered that. I'm like, why the heck is Skippy not in here? Where the hell is Skippy doing? Is he out chasing girls or what the heck is he doing?
Did Skippy like collecting artifacts? Did he like that part of the life?
I don't know.
No comment. Okay.
All right, Forrest. We want to know if you're watching this, Forrest. Give us a scrapbook over on Dale Neitzel's side about Skippy.
He was probably out trying to make money or something. He was into the inventions and aircraft, and he was taking the lead on the trip back home. He's probably
kind of like that question he responded to me about Skippy. I asked him a question. It was coming up on Skippy's 90th birthday, which would have been his 90th birthday, and I asked him that question. He turned around and said, Skippy was very ingenuitive, and he came up with that drilling rig on the back of a pickup truck, and that Humble Oil bought it from him. So yeah, he was he had a different mindset. He's very ingenuitive, and I guess obviously didn't like fishing for whatever reason. But that's interesting to know. I've always wanted to know that, Dale, and I'm glad that you clarified that. That's cool. Thank you.
I hope I didn't lie.
Now he's probably chasing chicks. Is probably what he's doing.
Definitely, Joe Monday will email Forrest and ask him that, and he'll say, "Well, Dale Neitzel doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about."
That's right.
yeah.
So let's see. We got a white blaze. We got Skippy not like fishing.
Yeah, it's certainly happened before.
You're gonna get flamed. What thread was that where you and Forrest had that back and forth about the national forest, and he told you, I can't remember what it was, but it was hilarious.
I don't remember it.
It was a couple years ago on your site where you were talking about not trouncing in the national forest or whatever, and he called you out. I'm not going to tell everybody you're peeing behind every tree in the Gallatin National Forest or something.
I don't even remember that.
Well, I remember it. It was awesome. I love that thread. It was great.
Sean does. He wrote about it in his diary.
He can remember everything.
Dear diary. Yeah, Alzheimer's going to kick your ass, Sean.
Hey, Dale, can I kind of read somewhere that you would, if you found the chest, you would probably, you would sit down with Fenn and figure it out, but I think Fenn wants people to sell it back to him or put it in the Smithsonian or.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, Dale, you might know better than anybody.
He's never said anything to me about what he would prefer. In fact, what I've heard him say when reporters have asked that question is that it's out of his hands and it isn't important to him. He'd like to have his bracelet back. And he keeps saying that. And that's all he says. Yeah.
Well, he said, think on it for a little while. And I kind of get the feeling he wants control over, possibly put in the Smithsonian or something like that. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard him voice that opinion. Yeah, who knows? Hey.
Yeah, go ahead, Dale. Sorry.
Nah, I'm sorry. I was going to bring up something that had nothing to do with it.
No, go ahead. You're the guest.
No,
you have the floor.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
What is your best, Dale, unique visitor count on DaleNeitzel.com? Your unique visitors, you're up in the many thousands, right? Like daily or whatever?
Oh, right now we're at 960, I think. And this is this year it's down a little from this time of year, say the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Normally we're up above 1,000. We punch up above 1,000 when a story comes out. The rest of the time we've been hovering around 900. So
yeah, but you've had numbers as high as 10,000 or.
Oh, well, that's 900 on average per hour over the past 48 hours. Yeah.
I was thinking per day. Yeah.
No, that's per hour.
900 unique visitors per hour is some junk right there.
Yeah,
man, who's carrying that? Who's carrying those kind of hits?
You mean what the server? You mean where's the server?
Yeah, it's not on the
servers
island.
can handle it. The servers are fine.
Well, no, but I mean, and on the island, it can't be on the island.
Oh no, it's over at Bluehost in Utah.
Okay, I was going to say there ain't no way it's on that island.
No,
taking
no.
That kind of hit.
And here's an interesting thing. You all may remember Goofy. Goofy was the original. He was the guy who straightened out the blog. When I first started the blog, it was a couple pages and it was easy to deal with because that's all I knew how to do. And I read what WordPress said, how to start a blog. I had never started a blog before, and I did it. And so some of the guys, because we started adding pages and then we had more comments and people were coming in and there was more stuff on the blog and it was so disorganized. You couldn't find anything on the blog. I had no menus. I had no indexes. It was a mess. And Goofy said to me one day, "Why don't you straighten this blog out?" And I said, "Goofy, I don't know how to straighten it out."
Yeah.
And like 2 days later, Goofy sent me a link and he said, "Check this out." And I checked it out and there was the blog all laid out the way it is today. I mean, it was gorgeous. It had menus and indexes and submenus, and it was just gorgeous. And Goofy did all that on his own. I don't even know how he got the blog to, got the material off the blog to put it in there. And then from there, we moved it over to a real host. Because it was writing on my site.
Back in the day, you could just copy the HTML that existed and copy it over, and you could steal any kind of web page you wanted to.
Dale, there's a rumor that Goofy is related to Fenn, somehow married to someone in his family. Is that true, or do you even want to talk about that?
I have no idea. I remember, I don't know a thing about Goofy. Goofy showed up on the blog.
The whole Fenn family is Goofy.
Goofy showed up on the blog and said he took care of this stuff for me. I don't know who he is. I only know from his IP where he was living at the time, approximately, out on the Northern California coast. I don't know.
Davio 22. I know it.
I don't know his real name, really. But I gave him the keys to everything.
You gave him the password, though. You gave him the password.
I gave him the passwords to everything. He has the passwords to my checking account, probably. I mean, really and truly, I just gave this guy everything because.
Hey, Dale, on the chat right now, they're saying that Goofy passed away. Is that true? I've never heard that.
I don't know the answer to that.
Wait a minute. Where, in this chat?
Yeah, right now they're saying on chat right now that Goofy passed away. How would we know? You know him better than anybody, I guess.
I don't know him, honestly.
Yeah.
He sent me a letter, I think back in February, I believe, maybe a little earlier.
Oh, no.
And this was the last.
Dale sent me an email saying he's leaving the photos up in Goofy's memory, so I took that he passed.
Oh, okay. No. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
This is exactly why we cannot find where warm water salt.
And the blaze is white, by the way. And
there goes my whole solve.
So anyway, Goofy sent me a note back in February and said, "I'm going to leave. I'm moving back to Texas. It's a deal I can't pass up." Something to that effect. And then he disappeared. And I mean, that was it. That was the last time I heard from him.
He's working for the treasures of Texas.
Maybe he found the treasure.
So wait a minute. So you mean your pages are now kind of on autopilot?
No. We had, you may remember, early in the spring, the blog slowed down to practically a standstill. I mean, we were having serious trouble. Okay. And this guy by the name of Chris Ekman
Thank you.
Stepped in and said, "Hey, I can take
wait. Is Chris Ekman the same guy that's done the T-shirts?
Yes.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Yeah,
so
I ordered 2 T-shirts from you, Chris. They better get here. Where are they?
I ordered 2. I got them.
Good.
So Chris agreed. Well, he offered to take it on, and I offered to give him the opportunity to put ads on the blog. No. And then he gets the revenue from that as payment for maintaining the blog. So that's awesome. Why the ads are on the blog.
Okay.
And then a friend of his makes those T-shirts.
Oh, that's great. No, we love them.
I should have thought of that deal. Yeah, I have 1,000. I have 1,000.
Okay, wait. Now we got to talk to Chris Ekman about our coffee mug idea.
Yeah, no shit. Oh my God.
Well,
Dale, put your coffee mug up again. Let's talk about it.
No
we're gonna totally pitch it to Chris right now.
He's gonna.
Here we go. Go
That's
ahead,
right.
DeCall. This was your idea. Go.
Oh well, my idea was we're gonna do coffee mugs with when the temperature, cold or hot temperature, hits the mug, that the X lights up on the coffee mug, so you see where the treasure is.
Yeah,
And
different places for hot and cold. It's like
signed off by Fenn. So
And I know what you're going to do. You're going to have the X in New Mexico.
hell yeah.
I'm gonna put it in Idaho somewhere.
Shit. Good. Out on the California coast to be like, oh my God.
I just got email. Actually, I didn't let it go onto the blog, but some guy who had a solution for Idaho again. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Texas. It's in Texas.
Dale, and you've done a really good job of telling new searchers and even veteran searchers are in the chase that while the treasure chest should be on the map that Forrest Fenn has provided us in the Rocky Mountains, you've done a very good job of reminding people that it doesn't necessarily mean that your interpretation or the interpretation of where Warm Waters Halt is doesn't necessarily have to reside within the Rocky Mountains. So I just want to give you some props. You've done a really good job of being very political about that and just telling people that none of us are authorities. None of us know where this thing is. So the treasure chest should be on the map. Obviously, that is known. The architect has told us that, but you've done a very good job of reminding people that doesn't necessarily mean that the clues start within that map. So I just wanted to give you some props for that. And I think you've been very, diplomatic in that. So good job.
Maybe diplomatic, but in truth, I don't believe that for a second. I really believe all 9 clues are on that map.
Sure. But again, hey, David, what are opinions like?
Opinions are like assholes. Do with yours what you wish, but leave mine alone.
Right, exactly.
Thank you for that.
That's our disclaimer.
It's a beautiful picture
of somebody's asshole. Okay, gal.
Oh, Dale, your wife is not standing beside you, is she?
No, not yet. Oh, wait a minute.
There you go.
No. She hasn't come home yet. She took off. I don't know where she is.
Thank goodness.
She's behind you with the rolling pin.
Video's over. Get home, boy.
She's at a garage sale, probably.
So if I can now really quick segue, and I'm going to share the screen again. Here we go. We're going to totally screw this up. We got another. It won't let me. Bam! Featured question right here.
Ding,
so this featured question came out Sunday, which was July 31st, and this is the one a lot of people are talking about right now, where it says, "Mr. Fenn, does the first stanza in your poem reveal where searchers are supposed to begin where when looking for where Warm Waters Halt, or are we only supposed to pay attention to where Warm Waters Halt and one day say, why didn't I think of that when the true solve is revealed? Thanks, Indiana Joni." And Forrest responds, "Joni, the first clue in my poem is where Warm Waters Halt. I have said that several times over the years. If you can't find that location, you cannot find the treasure. Good luck, and please stay safe in the mountains." So,
don't you love Forrest?
I know
he knows how to dodge a question like the best of them.
So I just want to get everybody's opinion on this because a lot, the forums are definitely talking about that. The Fenn tubers are out there talking about this. So I just want to go around the room and get everybody's opinion on this. And obviously the chat room, we'll talk about it as well. So, Dale, we started with David last time. We'll start with you. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I think it's just pure Fenn. I mean, he knows how to dodge a question he doesn't want to answer. The guy should run for Senate. I mean, he's a wonderful politician. He can move you right on to something he's willing to talk about, and you don't even know you've been moved. I don't think he tried to answer that question in any way, shape, or form.
DeCall, what do you think?
It's been 8 years, and I don't think he's ever been this clear that Warm Waters Halt is the first clue. And the mind-boggling thing here is we know it's not the first sentence. It's not so what do we do with the first sentence compared to the first clue? First clue is in the second stanza. Is there some symbolic meaning? Is there extraordinary connection here to figure out? Is there an omega and an omega? Is there any weirdness or T.S. Eliot symbolism here about the beginning, the end and the beginning? And what the hell do we do with the first stanza then? Isn't that the main question we learned from this? what do we do with the first stanza? You know?
I know the answer to that.
Please.
Oh, wait.
No,
Hey,
go ahead.
Hold on, Dale. Let's get David's opinion on this real quick, and then we'll get into that. I really want to
hear it.
I want to talk about this.
I want to hear
this
it
is a
too.
good topic, but
hey, look, I think the man really did answer the question. I think when he said,
lost
"Look, I've been
Dale.
saying for
Dale
years."
fell over.
Oh, well, he probably had to pee.
Dale
Sorry,
down.
outside.
Dale down. Sorry, David. Oh, he's back. Oh my God. Did you relieve yourself, or what happened there, Dale? Are you all right?
Some papers were blowing around the yard. I wanted to pick them up.
See, that's some old damn people right there. Young dude go like, "Yeah, look, some fucking papers." Old people are like, "Hey, get off my lawn!"
Get off my lawn, you sons of bitches. Sorry, David. Go ahead. I couldn't resist.
The hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, I thought he answered the question all right. You know, I thought he when he said, "Look, you know, I've been saying that where warm waters halt is the first clue." You know, that's it. I'm good with that. I'm great with that answer. There was another follow up where somebody else said pretty much what Dale said. They were like, "He didn't say shit." It's like, okay. That's where I was at. All right, you can move on because he had a really good point. Wherever he is in this thing.
Yeah, Dale,
Which guy? What was that? What did Dale to say?
Well, I said this before, and you know, here's what I think. I think most people think the first stanza describes the hidey place. Okay, as I have gone alone in there, where? To the hidey place. As I have gone into the hidey place alone. I think most people kind of feel that that's where that first stanza is going. But I don't think, well, I don't know what I think, but another possibility is that it's describing where warm waters halt. It's describing that place. And chronologically, that would be the right place to put it. I'm going to describe it, and then I'm going to tell you that's the first clue. Go to it. So, as I have gone alone in there with my treasures bold.
Yeah.
This is silly, but he's talking about Ojo Caliente and bathing there nude, and his treasures are bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Dale, are you a fan of the double meanings?
Are you a fan of Forrest Bold?
No, come on. Dale, are you a fan of these double meanings? Like alone in there could be.
No, I'm not a fan at all of that bullshit, but but I couldn't help it. I mean, I just really think that that's a possibility. I don't know, but I've tried it on everybody. I tried it on Cynthia. I've tried it on I tried it on lots of people.
Watch out, everybody. Dale is trying to try his shit on your bold treasures.
Yeah. And the blaze is white.
He only likes white bold treasures. What do you got against black people? What's wrong with you?
Well, I had a theory once that the river bathing is best describes not just the beginning, like warm waters halt, but you have to get down out of your clothes and into the water at the end where the treasure is again. Or that, think about this, Dale, that the cover of Too Far to Walk is both the beginning and the end. So you literally are looking for a place that matches that cover picture for the beginning and the end. And it doesn't have to be a river, but you're going to be facing the water, you know, at a certain point at the end of his journey. So you got a continuous sort of circle. You've got the shadow man at both beginning and end. I thought it was.
Well, you mentioned a circle, DeCall, and I want to give a hat tip to somebody out there, and that is Mike Davis. You know, M Davis 19, who I believe is the really originator of the circular theory to the poem, that if the first clue really is begin at where warm waters halt, and we should not doubt that at all because the architect of the poem tells us it is, then the last clue as it circles around may be the first stanza. And like the T.S. Eliot, you know, poem or quote that he keeps talking about is that, you know, at the end of our searching or whatever is to find ourselves at the beginning and know the place for the first time. So it kind of goes into that whole revolver thing. And, you know, we had a special show not too long ago where we talked about the structure of the poem. And as the first stanza, because he says, as I have gone alone in there, and the tense nature of that almost seems like the first stanza is him writing it after he has already gone and hid the treasure. And he is stating, as I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret where and hint of riches new and old. It's like he's giving, and I like to call it the introduction, of telling you what the following writing is going to be about. He's going to hint of riches new and old because he has gone alone, and he can keep a secret. Because
Sean, I think that's a brilliant idea, that the first stanza is definitely past tense, and we should think of it as past tense after the fact, sort of like possibly a later clue, the ninth clue. Well,
I'm by no means the originator of that idea. There's plenty of people that have talked about the tense nature of the poem, and there's plenty of people that have talked about that. But when you look at the big picture, like Forrest Fenn talks about, and you start listening to other people out there in the forums, David talks a lot about this. This is a conglomeration of an intelligence. There's a lot of people out there with information. If you just listen to people and you put the big picture together, it starts to make sense. And I look at that tense nature of that first stanza. If it's not the first clue, what is it telling us? What is Forrest Fenn really trying to convey to us in that first stanza? Is it a clue? And to me, when I read this original Q&A that we just talked about that came out on Sunday, it seems to me, and in my interpretation and what I get out of there, is he's telling us, disregard the first stanza. It doesn't tell you where the starting point is. The starting point is in that first clue. Begin it where warm waters halt. And I'm a 9 sentences, 9 clues guy, that it's the whole sentence, not just that singular line. But then again, what does the first stanza tell us? What is it trying to convey to us? And that's my whole point, that it was written after the fact that he already hid the treasure. If that first line of the first stanza, the first line of the fifth stanza says, so why is it that I must go and leave my trove for all to seek? So he's saying, I have not gone.
Yeah.
So why must I go? He hasn't yet gone. And then that seventh line is answers I already know. I've done it tired. What has he done tired? He's hid the treasure. That's how I read it. I'm not saying it's right, but if you look at the whole structure of the poem,
at this point,
of it,
at this point, I think he had Dale Photoshop the whole damn thing.
Nah, it's fucking all Dale's fault.
I didn't Photoshop anything in that book. That was done by his designer.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Hey, but speaking of that picture on the front of TFTW.
Oh, you go.
Yeah.
Now,
there we go.
Now, I just want you to know that Forrest's account of how that picture came about and my account of how that picture came about. No, I'm sorry.
Not that one.
Oh,
TFTW.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The one that I took. Forrest's account and my account of how that picture came about are different.
Wow.
In Forrest's account, which he gives in the Moby Dickens bookstore interview, he says that he sent me out to the Madison. In my account, which was also, which I wrote about as soon as I came back, I think, and I've written about several times, he asked me to get a picture, and he described what he wanted in terms of what the river should look like, how it needed to look like a salmon stream, gravelly on the bottom, needed to look pretty, and a little bit of bank in it, and some flowers growing on the side. This was in the fall. This was in the fall. There weren't very many wildflowers left. To put that he want. Actually, he had sent me a picture of the picture that he wanted, but he couldn't use that picture. It belonged to somebody else, and he wanted one like it. He did not send me to the Firehole or the Madison or anywhere else. He knew I was up there. I was up there searching. And he said, while you're up there, can you get a picture? He didn't mention which river.
Wow.
I went first to the Firehole and I took a bunch of pictures, and I couldn't get it to look right. And then I went to the Madison, and I think I spent 2 days trying to get that picture because I was trying to get the sun in the right place so that the shadow would look natural when they put it in there, and on and on and on. The first time I took it, I didn't realize that I didn't have to put the shadow in there. I got myself a hat and I got a walking stick, and I was trying to look like Forrest, with holding the camera in one hand, sort of like this, and look like, so my shadow would look like. And I sent that back there, and they said, "You don't need to put the shadow in. We'll do that later."
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Fantastic,
But anyway, in my opinion, as far as I remember, Forrest never sent me to a specific place. The place, I don't think he even knew where I took that picture. I don't believe I told him.
We just lost 20 people.
Yep, 20 more searchers out.
20 searchers went.
No. Hey, Dale. So didn't Fenn, after the fact, didn't he say this is Madison Junction, or did he say it's? Did he say a specific place or a general place?
Well, he did say that in the video. He did say that he sent Dale to a very specific place along the Madison River.
Along the Madison River, not Madison Junction. Along the Madison River.
Yep.
But I could swear as an.
Oh, you're going to get a nasty email from Forrest right now. I can tell.
No, I don't think so. But okay.
He's going to say, you told me you went on the Madison. You say you went on a creek on the outside of the Dude Ranch in Yellowstone? What did you?
But no, that was taken on the Madison.
Okay.
And it was taken about where Forrest says it was taken, but Forrest did not send me to that place.
Sure.
Well, I'm not curious about the actual place. I'm curious, what does Fenn say the place is? Because it doesn't matter where you took it. It only matters what Fenn says it is.
Yeah. So, and he says, like I said, roughly on the Madison, he may have pinpointed it a little better, but roughly between Beaver Marsh and between Beaver Marsh? Between Barnes Hole and Baker's Hole.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Well, Dale, let me ask you something else that's sort of related. Have you ever considered that the first word "as" is related to the arsenic in that section of river? I mean, that could have been
not the slightest, and I'm never going to.
Okay.
I just don't buy into that whole symbology thing.
So let me ask Dale a question. Dale, can I ask you, do you think it's more important to figure out what Warm Waters Halt is or where Warm Waters Halt is?
Well, I don't know. If one leads to the other, I guess it wouldn't matter. But I've always concentrated on where it is as opposed to what it is. I mean, to me, it's a place where warm waters halt. And I tried a dam first, and Forrest called me out on that. You remember he canceled out Eagle's Nest Dam.
Yep.
He canceled out all dams.
Yep.
But my big theory that I was going with was Eagle's Nest, and I was all over the blog with that. And he tossed that right out. I have to say, I've been all over the blog with Madison Junction, and I haven't heard Forrest say, it's not a junction, you jerk.
Well, he did say, he talked about in the Once Upon a While, he did pay very special homage to intersections, and synonym to intersections is a junction.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do is try things, and see if you can raise an eyebrow. But Forrest has a wonderful poker face,
Yeah. Well, I love your interpretation of where warm waters halt. I mean, I'm amazed. I mean, to me, that's like, and we gotta talk it up on this episode because we hardly ever talk much Montana. I know we mention my solve occasionally.
We don't talk about really any specific area, honestly.
Yeah, I mean. But Dale's here, and Dale's Wyoming, Montana. I love your interpretation of warm waters halt. Probably because I agree almost with every word that you've described, and why I came to the same conclusion before you wrote it on my own, and I love it. I agree.
Well, let me tell you why I'm having trouble with that now. I'm beginning to doubt myself.
Yeah.
And the
Mark
reason,
this spot right here. This is good.
and the reason is that in and through thing that we were talking about before. If I'm supposed to be looking from where warm waters halt, and remember, Focused brought this up. Take it in.
Yeah.
Take it in, as in take that view in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so maybe take it in means that. Well, okay, I'm not so rigid that I can't buy into that idea. And if I buy into that idea, there's no canyon down at Madison Junction. It's pretty level. I mean, the river moves and it's called a canyon. It's more like a valley. And I can't stand at Madison Junction and take in the canyon.
Well, I've heard that, to me, you obsess over canyon too much, Dale. I mean, I don't mean that as an insult. I'm like, I think canyon has a triple, quadruple meaning, you know, like if you're a casket being lowered down into the ground, canyon fits for that, you know. Plenty of people see the poem as a symbolic of death and passing away or moving on, you know, and other symbolisms. So canyon to me is a perfect dual purpose, triple purpose word, you know. That's the only reason I think he uses canyon, because it's going to the treasure. It's about death. It's about birth, you know. It's about other symbolic. It's a perfect symbolic word. But maybe I'm nuts. It's fine.
Well, you know, when I go back to Ojo Caliente, which I sometimes use as my where warm waters halt, right. I look at, and people say, well, how can you look at? It's kind of easy, actually. And here we have a canyon right below. Okay, so I'm looking at the canyon that the warm waters carve from the thermal event down to the Firehole River. It's about 40 or 45 feet of a gully that's, you know, I mean, you have to jump across it, steaming water, and it's probably, I don't know, 6 inches deep. But if you get down on your hands and knees, or if you're a damn ant, that's a friggin' canyon, you know?
Well, perspective is everything. Canyon, it sure could.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, you want to get into weird things. I mean, Forrest has pointed out that to an ant, a puddle is an ocean.
Yeah.
To an ant, a little rivulet is a canyon. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I don't even think Forrest thinks that way. But, you know.
Yeah, but everything is a rabbit hole. Everything, including Fenn. What Fenn really thinks is the correct solve, Fenn's solve is a rabbit hole, too. We just have to find the right rabbit hole, you know?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'll buy into that, you know, and sometimes I get desperate.
We're trying to figure out what is Fenn talking about.
Yeah, and I keep telling people I have no more idea than anybody else, and probably less idea than anybody else. But folks think that just because I talk to Forrest once in a while, or I get emails from him from time to time, I know something. And, well, I wish that was true, but I can't figure out what it is.
You know, I think we all would pretty much agree, and I would assume that most or a good percentage of the chat room would agree that if we are just looking at, you know, the thrill of the chase and the singular line in the poem, begin at where warm waters halt, that Madison Junction fits that bill the best out of anything in the Rocky Mountains. You know, and I've talked a lot about this and my own personal experience, you know, coming into this chase that, you know, where the Gibbons River and the Firehole meet, they're both geothermally fed rivers. You know, they're not wholly geothermally fed, but they are geothermally fed out of the hotbed of the entire world of geothermal activity, Yellowstone. Okay. That those two rivers, which are warm rivers, if you look at them, they are the warmest rivers in the whole of the world, meeting up into one place and becoming something that is different. They halt, their names halt, and they become the Madison River. And they go down the Madison Canyon, the Madison Valley, whatever you want. If we are just singular looking at the aberrations within the thrill of the chase and just singular looking at that one single line out of the poem, then yes, Madison Junction by far meets that better than any other place out of the Rocky Mountains. And I would agree wholeheartedly with that. And that is a big reason why, you know, my solve back in late 2015 and 2016 revolved around that. And you know, and like I said, following DeCall Thomas and Dal Neitzel and believing that, you know, these are veteran searchers. They know more than me. And it makes perfect sense, you know, if you are looking at that and not just focusing on the poem, in my opinion.
But you moved on, Sean.
I did.
And,
Yes.
and what made you move on? You must have found something better.
Well, I burned a book, and that made me move on. That was a big part of it.
That was some shit.
But the point that made me move on, and I've talked a lot about this, and I'm not trying to plug my own channel or my own videos, but if you go back to my Evolution of a Poem Purist video, I talk a lot about this, was that, I went back to, everything that was said, and there was two, Q&As that were posed by a Steve and a Phil Bayman. And both those questions asked Forrest Fenn if we knew, if we had begin at where warm waters halt and somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe, could we figure out the correct starting point? And both of those questions, Forrest Fenn answered pretty much the same. He said no to both questions, but he answered them differently. He said, if you are missing some ingredients, you can't bake a cake. And the other one, he said, if you oversimplify the clues, you're not going to have the same result. Look at the bigger picture. And to me, the bigger picture was all the information in the poem, because he said, all the information to find the treasure is contained within the poem. Nobody has any secret information on the treasure's location. It's all in the poem for all to see. So I got to thinking, look, if the information that provides us with the starting point is supposed to be in the poem, then it's all there. It should be there. It shouldn't be outside. I shouldn't be looking outside of it. So I started just going back to the information in the poem and trying to remain as objective as I could. I'm not saying it's the right way, but that's what made me adjust. That's what made me get rid of the book, burn the book, blah, 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 whatever. It was a very symbolic thing. It wasn't meant as a affront to Forrest or anything like that. It was a very symbolic thing. I know a lot of people look at it differently than that, but it was a very symbolic thing to me, and I think Forrest Fenn understands that. But I just went to the whole poem purity, and I know a lot of people have a lot of negative connotation of that. But it's just, if all the information is supposed to be in that poem, then the information to find the correct starting point should be wholly contained within that. And this recent, Q&A from him where he says, it kind of negates, and like you guys both say, he kind of avoids the question. I get that. But to me, I read that and he's stating, disregard the first stanza. Pay attention to the first clue, which is begin at where warm waters halt. And the whole point is, and I've said this a lot, the first clue is not warm waters halt. It is where. And that's the whole point that I'm, that I've learned from it. To me, is that we've got to pay attention to that whole sentence.
It does seem like he's hitting us over the head with a frying pan on this one. Why? Why is he putting so much emphasis? The treasure, in my opinion, can't be at warm waters halt. So why does warm waters halt matter so much? I mean, of course, we can't possibly be at the right final location if we didn't start at the right beginning. If we didn't start at the correct warm waters halt, we could be 1,000 miles away. But there's got to be some symbolic or some parallel reason. There's got to be a synonymous reason to, other than just simply start. It's got to be more than just simply starting at the right place. That's obvious. So what is the point he's trying to get across here? In my ideas, I see, a circle at the beginning, fire hole. And I think that's important because a fire hole is like he started the art business with that forge pouring hot molten bronze. That's how he got started in the art business. That's why the fire hole is spiritual. I think the end is going to be also a circle dot. Maybe not a fire hole, but I think that, in my opinion, that's why there's a parallel symbolism between the beginning and the end. I think the FF and the Omega, I think there is a duality here. This T.S. Eliot thing, this both ends of the rainbow. And Sean and I, you and I agree a little bit on the idea, but it's kind of a spiritual idea. It's not really a matter of fact, brute force kind of idea.
Dale, I know you're ready. You look like you're eager to say something.
Well, I just don't understand why we have to disregard the first.
We don't have to disregard it. No, we're not disregarding it at all.
Well, I don't understand why we can't buy into the idea that the first stanza gives us that information about where warm water.
There's a lot of people that believe that, Dale. And who's to say those people are wrong? Nobody. nobody can say they're wrong. Absolutely not. That's not what we're saying. We're just
giving. I think Fenn is encouraging this frustration. Okay, he's pointing to it like a big neon sign. What do we do with the first stanza? I honestly believe this first stanza has got to be his most brilliant work, his most brilliant part of the poem, and he's pointing at it with the neon sign here. Even though he said second stanza is the first clue, he's giving us this curiosity now. What do we do with the first stanza? That's what he's really pointing at.
Well, but he's never said that that the second stanza is the first clue. He said where warm water halts is the first clue, and he said this a couple years ago.
Yep.
He said that in the New Zealand interview, I think it was.
Yeah, so, I remember. Sure.
So, I mean, although most of us didn't know about that for a year, but and then he said it recently a couple of times. So, but he doesn't say that the second stanza per se. He says where warm waters halt is the first clue. And I believe he's telling us where warm waters halt is in the first stanza.
Yeah.
Chronologically, that makes sense. Remember, we're not supposed to disregard any words in the poem.
Yep, precisely.
So I think that's the purpose of that first stanza. If we can figure out what he means by that, that will tell us where.
Well, okay. Let's go really quick, and guys, we're gonna have to wrap this up. I had a real issue when we had a video go over 2 hours. So I want to make sure that we wrap this up here very shortly because we're at an hour and 45 minutes. So I don't want to get over that point and have an issue with this because it's a great conversation and I don't want to lose it. But I just want to hit on something really quick, Dale, and then we can keep going or whatever. But we're going to have to close it out.
Yeah.
That you had said that the first stanza is very important, and I agree with that. I wholly agree. We cannot disregard any words in this poem. But if that is in the tense nature of it being the last clue, the thing that he wrote after he hid the treasure, as I have gone alone in there, in the fact of, in the act of him actually hiding the treasure. Again, I'm going to go back to, I talked to you on Monday and I applauded you for bringing up the whole in the canyon down thread. And I'm glad that you did that. But again, the word in, as I have gone alone in there, take it in the canyon down. Could it be the fact that he's gone in the canyon alone in there? That everything, and I'm not saying something that is new. I mean, this is being echoed on your forum, even prior to you. And I want to say it was either Zapoid or Seeker or even Focused who pointed out on your forum that said that, he's going in the canyon, so that everything possibly could be in the canyon, that as I have gone alone in there into the canyon or what, and that's something very interesting and definitely worth talking about. That's why the first stanza is talking about. That's the last thing he's wrote about, that he went alone in there, into a place. In, when you look at the definition of it, is going from outside somewhere into something, whether that
and
into
not
the hiding place or into the canyon or whatever. It's definitely worth and a great conversation. I'm very happy that you started that thread over on your forum, and I'm just dismayed that other forums haven't talked about that. So I'm glad that you've done that. So,
and I consider myself a bit of a romantic, on the first stanza stuff. I love the T.S. Eliot, this circle of life sort of symbolism. I like the omegas. I don't think that's a huge cardinal sin. I like the idea of the journey through life, the shadow man walking from end to end. But nobody, you don't have nobody. I like almost everything you talk about too, Dale.
Yeah, but see, that's the difference between us. I only like what I talk about.
Good point. Guys, I really want to start wrapping this up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
We got 10 minutes, and I want to wrap. We've been almost 2 hours here, and a lot of us,
can't take a chance. Yeah, wrap it up.
So, I think it's been a great show, Dale. I'm very excited that you came on the show with us and provided a lot of great insight, a lot of history, things that we don't know about. You know, you telling us that Skippy was not into fishing. I was excited to hear that from you. That's stuff that I didn't know about. And sharing a lot of your personal relationship with Forrest and your journeys in this hunt. I think a lot of people, appreciate that. So I just wanted to thank you personally for coming on here and joining us here on the After Hours show. And I'm going to pass it on over to my panel members. I'll start with David. David, if you, he's typing away, so he gets wrapped up in the chat room and he forgets what we're talking about.
Cool.
And guys in the chat room, I know I hate to say we ignore you. I don't think we ignore you, but we get so wrapped up in our chat here that it's hard to focus on what you guys are talking about. And I know you guys do a great job of just chatting amongst yourselves and communicating.
We're excited to have Dale on here.
Yeah, it's been a great show. I think it's been amazing. So I'm gonna pass it over to David to allow him to give his last few words, and if he's got any questions to Dale or whatever. So David, you got the floor.
Dale, is great to meet you face to face. Been enjoying your site for years. Man, I appreciate everything you gave us tonight. You're just a fantastic guest and an awesome human being. May God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. Had I known it was going to end like this, I would have come here earlier, because I love when people tell me they like me.
We do. We love you, bro.
I got more compliments. I got a long list for you, Dale. Yeah, it's really cool talking to you kind of person to person, face to face. And I'm thrilled to be kind of in the same area as you and share some of the same ideas with you. I love it. And I appreciate the site too. I appreciate your site.
Well, thank you. I really enjoy being here, and if I can ever come back, if I haven't worn out my welcome yet, let me try again and wear my welcome out.
We'll go back and we'll watch the video a couple times, and then we'll cast judgment after that. We'll see.
You may not want to come back.
That's true.
You might get completely flamed on your own forum for coming over and talking to us three guys.
Yeah. Well, just remember, if you forget everything else I said, just remember the blaze is white.
Oh,
we love it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
You distracted everybody from the real blaze. Good.
I was going to say, there's people that logged in 3 minutes ago.
I know.
Oh, shit, the blaze is white. All right.
They're out.
Ben told him.
They're looking right out.
Absolutely, from Fenn's lips, he told you it's white.
Yeah.
With a flashlight searching in the dark.
Yeah, we're going to get a scrapbook now that's going to totally be up.
Wrap it up, Sean. We don't want to mess up this 2-hour limit.
Well, Dale, I just want to again, first of all, want to tell everybody in the chat room and everybody that's come out tonight and everybody that is going to be watching this video after that has been live. We appreciate you guys coming out here and spending your couple of hours with us. It's nice to see you guys all in the chat room. And again, like I said, we don't mean to ignore you guys. We're wrapped up in the conversation here. And I know you guys are obviously communicating with friends that you've made in the chat room here. But Dale, I just want to say I appreciate everything that you have done. Again, you are your forum, like I like to say, is the gateway into the Thrill of the Chase community. I see you as really a cornerstone, the foundation that builds this Thrill of the Chase. People like you, people like Cynthia and other veteran searchers that we highly look up to. I don't know where Desert File is, and I wish he'd come out, and I'd love to get him on this show. But if you've got any kind of communication with him, please reach out to him and let him know we'd love to have him on this show. I think he is obviously one of those cornerstones that have been in this community for a long time. We'd love to have him in. But Dale, you are definitely a cornerstone in this community, and we appreciate you coming out and spending a couple hours with us and sharing your thoughts, opinions, and history in this chase. We'd love to have you on again sometime, and you're more than welcome than any other time to come out and join with us.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure meeting all of you guys. I had no idea what you look like. I had no idea what you sound like. And thank God none of you look like your icons. That's all I want to say.
We totally ruined that image for you, didn't we?
Sean's got a face for radio, as I always.
Absolutely. Yep. I got to cheers to everybody out there.
Cheers to everybody. Hey. Yeah.
So guys, we're gonna wrap this up really quick. Again, thanks to everybody here in the chat room and joining us. We will each and every one of us, I'm sure, will go back through the chat room here, and if we missed any of your questions, we will do our best to go back there in the comments. Dale, if you haven't created a Gmail account, you might want to create a Gmail account. Put it however you want. So if you would like to go back in here and you see some questions that were directed at you personally, you can go back in the comments sections and put that person's name in there and respond to them if you'd like. That's kind of what each and every one of us do. You know, if we miss something in here, we like to go back in here and respond to those people.
All right. I'll do that.
If not for the community, we wouldn't be here. And I know you know that more than anybody for as long as you've been in here, that the community is why
Sean,
we're here.
you just keep talking. You can't just roll this shit. You got to
B-roll
up the ass.
Wrap it.
That's it. We will catch you all on the flip side.
Bye, folks.
Stick around, Dale.
Thanks,
Don't
Dale.
sign off.